Right now, Senator Pete Ricketts speaking out on his new opponent. You might remember last night we talked to Dan Osborn as he enters the race for U.S. Senate, and tonight we're continuing our coverage, hearing Ricketts' response. Channel 8's Karen LaCrest tells us what voters can expect as the race begins to take shape. Karen?
Tonight, I asked Senator Pete Ricketts directly about independent candidate Dan Osborn's bid for his seat, how he's preparing for a potentially competitive race, and why he believes his record in Washington stands on its own.
That's one of the things that we're going to continue to talk about and expose just how far left Dan Osborn is.
That's Senator Pete Ricketts reacting to his new political rival. Ricketts is no stranger to Nebraska politics. His first run for office was almost 20 years ago when he ran for Senate in 2006. He lost that bid but came back to win 2 terms as governor before becoming a senator. He says he knows Nebraska well.
One of the things that I did as governor is I always traveled the state to go visit with folks all across the state. And that's one of the things I continue to do as U.S. Senator. For example, I was just in the parade in Seward over the 4th of July holiday. I continue to travel the state. That's one of the things that I've always done, whether I was governor or senator.
Now in his first run for a full term in the U.S. Senate, he says he's focused on what matters the most to Nebraskans: tax relief for seniors, retirement benefits for veterans, and protecting the state's agriculture industry. But Ricketts says he's also concerned with international affairs.
Be able to push back on China. They're a big threat to our way of life. Communist China wants to replace us as a world power, and I've got a number of bills to be able to do that.
Now he's facing a challenge from Dan Osborn, a former labor union president and political newcomer. The two candidates bring sharply different backgrounds, with Ricketts coming from the business world. The senator isn't holding anything back in his criticism of Osborn.
Dan Osborn is a fake. He is absolutely a Democrat. You go look where his money came from his last election. First of all, 95% of it came from out of state. It wasn't even Nebraska money. And he got big donations from the Democrats. And is not an independent. He is a Democrat, even if he's running as one.
Ricketts says he will be campaigning hard to keep his seat.
I plan on doing just what I've done in every other election, is to go out there and earn it, getting my way around the state, talking to folks, talking about how we've been able to help Nebraskans, and I've got a record to run on.
Ricketts says he has a track record to run on here in Nebraska, and he will continue to keep Nebraskans at the forefront of his campaign.
And as we mentioned earlier, we heard from Dan Osborn yesterday, and today it's Ricketts' turn. So now that we've heard from both of them, Karen, would Senator Ricketts and Osborn be willing to do a debate here in the capital city?
Actually, Ricketts says he has no doubt he's ready to take Osborn on and to expose him for who he is. And Osborn says though he's never been in a formal debate, he's up for the challenge and he isn't backing down from a fight. But there is one simple thing they agree on.
What's that?
Anytime, anywhere.
All right, we'll have to see what happens from here. I know you'll keep us updated. Thank you so much, Karen.